So, I mean, it's really hard to know whether this is just one of these sort of outbursts from Donald Trump. He's clearly very angry. He has some reason to be. This breakdown of the ceasefire was absolutely brought about by Iran's decision to attack shipping going through the Strait of Hormuz, and I think that I think that we can trace that back to, a very sudden and ill-phrased, I think, a memorandum of understanding that was drawn up between the two sides.
And President Donald Trump has said the United States will take over the Strait of Hormuz and impose a 20% charge on the cargo going through. Trump has been speaking to Fox News.
Well, we're taking over the strait. They have nothing. But we had a deal. What nobody knows, we had a deal. It was a done deal. And then they broke it. They always break it. We've had 10 deals with these people, and so we're just going to hit them very hard. And we're going to keep the strait, and we'll probably run it. We'll become the guardian of the strait. Maybe we'll call it the guardian angel of the strait, and we should be reimbursed for that.
It's Donald Trump. Meanwhile, of course, Iran does assert its control of the strait and its right to levy charges. A spokesman for the Iranian Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps said the US had seriously jeopardized the security of global oil and gas supplies by interfering in the strait. We can talk to Catherine Philp, the Times World Affairs editor now. Hi, Catherine.
Hi, John.
Remarkable, this, is it not? Iran, well, we know that they insist they have control of the strait. They say they want to assert that control after the 60-day ceasefire with the right to levy charges. But now we've got Donald Trump saying he is the guardian of the strait. He says he wants 20% of every cargo's value to grant safe passage under US military escort. What are we to make of all that? Isn't that more than Iran has been charging? And is it entirely illegal under maritime law?
I think that's been the case all along, has it not? That we've been telling Iran that they can't charge because that's not how it works.
Yeah.
Because that's not how international law works, and they're not in a position to levy any toll on it. So, it's really hard to know whether this is just one of these sort of outbursts from Donald Trump. He's clearly very angry. He has some reason to be. This breakdown of the ceasefire was absolutely brought about by Iran's decision to attack shipping going through the Strait of Hormuz, and I think that I think that we can trace that back to a very sudden and ill-phrased, I think, a memorandum of understanding that was drawn up between the two sides. It was very unclear exactly who was left in charge of the strait, even in the 60 days, never mind after they are over, with Iran asserting its right to charge in the future. I think that Iran probably saw its control over the strait to be its absolute ultimate weapon, possibly even more useful and potent to it than a nuclear weapon would be, which they don't have. Currently, and decided that no, they had to get back in control, because what they saw was that the US was trying to open up the strait by directing traffic away from the Iranian coast and towards Oman. So Iran essentially was staring down the prospect of it losing control of the most potent weapon, moved to reassert its control over it, and then all this has gone up again. I would be very surprised if Trump really means this or has actually thought it through, but I think it's certainly demonstrative of how angry he is at the situation.
Yes, that's useful background, contextual thinking. And Iran, as you say, have consistently held this view, and the memorandum of understanding, where this strait control of the strait is concerned, is fairly fuzzily worded, and now Trump's getting a certain amount of heat from critics over that too. Maybe it was the only way to get any kind of deal. I'll certainly look at that a little bit later too. But the idea of America charging a 20% tariff, Catherine, I was just looking at what Iran is said to have charged. A 1%. Is it 1% effectively by putting a levy on each barrel of oil? Here we're talking about 20%. And if that's anything like sincere, that's astonishing. And if it's mere hot air, well, that's also astonishing.
Yes, it's all astonishing. I think we can agree on that. I very much suspect this is an outburst from Donald Trump, that not a great deal of thought has gone into this. But, we're in this situation where a memorandum of ceasefire was rushed into because essentially none of this had gone quite the way that Trump was expecting. I know, obviously, he's now battling the fact that, detractors who, whether or not you blame Iran for restarting hostilities now, which I think is fair enough. I think that's absolutely on them. The fact remains that Trump started this conflict at the end of February.
Yes.
And before that, the Strait was open and no one was charging anything, not America, not Iran. So it comes back to all over again, what on earth has been achieved here?
Yes, and we're now into what seems to be a steady cycle of aggression. I mean, it's not full-on war, although Donald Trump has written and spoken about having 1,000 missiles locked and loaded and ready to unleash on Iran. But it's not easy to see a way out of this when you look at where the two sides are.
It's really not easy to see a way out of it at all. I completely agree with that. I mean, I think that the best way out of it can possibly be found by the fact that actually neither side really want to go back to a state of all-out war, and that's what may stop this from descending into all-out conflict once again. It's really not in either side's interests. But nonetheless, we do have quite a serious problem here, whereby it is very, very clear that Iran is not willing to give up having glimpsed the power it has by taking control of the Strait. It is not willing to just give it up again.
It's really good to talk to you, Catherine. Thank you, as always. Catherine Philp there, World Affairs Editor at The Times. On the line now, Richard Meade, who's the editor of Lloyd's List. Hi to you, Richard.
Good afternoon.
Good to have you here. I mean, we saw the presidential announcement on social media just shortly before we came on air. America reimposing the US blockade, but then also saying it would insist on a 20% charge of every cargo that's allowed to pass under US escort. I mean, what do you make of that?
Well, it's certainly a left field suggestion. It's not the first time, of course, that he has suggested this. The fact that US could charge a toll, even share the proceeds with Iran, that's been raised before by Trump, only to back away from the idea. And we've seen various official announcements that they would never charge a toll. This falls into the realm of we don't know right now. I mean, if you were theoretically going to take him at his word, which is a dangerous game, 20% charge on what we call a VLCC, a very large crude carrier. These are the largest types of tankers out there. You'd be looking at around $15 million for a single shipment. Now, that makes the Iranian rates look pretty reasonable by comparison if you were going to take it on face value. I don't think it is real, but we have to wait and see what actually happens next.
And what a curious position to be in. Richard Meade at Lloyd's List, thank you so much.